The start of the war in Europe is generally held to be September 1st, 1939, beginning with the German invasion of Poland. Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later. The dates for the beginning of the war in the Pacific include the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War on July 7th, 1937, or even the Japanese invasion of Manchuria on September 19th, 1931. World War II involved the vast majority of the world's nations, including all of the great powers, eventually forming two opposing military alliances, the Allies and the Axis. World War II was the most widespread war in history and directly involved more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. In a state of total war, the major participants threw their entire economic, industrial, and scientific capabilities behind the war effort, erasing the distinction between civilian and military resources. Marked by mass deaths of civilians, including the Holocaust, and strategic bombing of industrial and population centers, it resulted in an estimated 50 million to 85 million fatalities. These made World War II the deadliest conflict in human history. From late 1939 to early 1941, in a series of campaigns and treaties, Germany conquered or controlled much of continental Europe and formed the Axis alliance with Italy and Japan. Under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of August 1939, Germany and the Soviet Union partitioned and annexed territories of their European neighbors, Poland, Finland, Romania, and the Baltic states. The war continued primarily between the European Axis powers and the coalition of the United Kingdom and British Commonwealth, with campaigns including North Africa and East Africa campaigns, the Aerial Battle of Britain, the Blitz bombing campaign, and the Balkan campaign, as well as the long-running Battle of the Atlantic. In June 1941, the European Axis powers launched an invasion of the Soviet Union, opening the largest land theater of war in history, which trapped the major part of the Axis's military forces into a war of attrition. In December 1941, Japan attacked the United States and European territories in the Pacific Ocean, and quickly conquered much of the Western Pacific. The Axis advance halted in 1942 when Japan lost the critical Battle of Midway, near Hawaii, and Germany was defeated in North Africa and then, decisively, at Stalingrad in the Soviet Union. In 1943, with a series of German defeats on the Eastern Front, an Allied invasion of Sicily, and the Allied invasion of Italy, which brought about Italian surrender, and Allied victories in the Pacific, the Axis lost initiative and undertook strategic retreat on all fronts. In 1944, the Western Allies invaded German-occupied France, while the Soviet Union regained all of its territorial losses and invaded Germany and its allies. During 1944 and 1945, the Japanese suffered major reverses in mainland Asia, in south-central China and Burma, while allies crippled the Japanese Navy and captured key western Pacific islands.
Overlooking the initial beachhead from Mount Suribachi. D-Day +5, shelling the ridge bordering the No. 2 airstrip. Tanks close in on the Japs dug in the caves along the ridge. One of our mortar crews is knocked out. All except one Marine are killed. The ridge protecting the airstrip is stubbornly defended. A tank flamethrower goes into action against one of the many pillboxes covering the ridge.
The war in Europe concluded with an invasion of Germany by the Western Allies and the Soviet Union, culminating in the capture of Berlin by the Soviet and Polish troops and the subsequent German unconditional surrender on May 8, 1945. Following the Potsdam Declaration by the Allies on July 26, 1945, and the refusal of Japan to surrender under its terms, the United States dropped atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on August 6th and August 9th. With an invasion of the Japanese archipelago imminent, the possibility of additional atomic bombings, and the Soviet Union's declaration of war on Japan and invasion of Manchuria, Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. Thus ended the war in Asia, cementing the total victory of the Allies.